Welcome back. Despite some companies pioneering tech-intensive models, the overall Chinese recycling industry remains far from being efficient and environmentally friendly.
According to data released in April by local authorities, Shanghai generates about 22,000 tons of waste every day. 40% of the waste is incinerated and the rest is tossed into landfills.
Around 85% of the garbage can be recycled and used for other purposes. But we mix them up together, dispose them through burning and landfilling, without further separating. This pollutes the environment and is a waste of resources.
The Ministry of Housing and Urban-Rural Development selected 8 cities to test garbage sorting, including Beijing and Shanghai in 2000. But only in Shanghai has the criteria for classification changed several times in just a decade. Shanghai began its third reform of garbage sorting in 2014. The city hopes to reach its recycling target citywide by the end of 2017.
Garbage sorting is a difficult task for the whole country. On one hand, people are getting used to the idea that waste is disposed in a mixed way. It will take a long time to change their mindsets, as well as improve their awareness of environmental protection. On the other hand, people are discouraged from the rising cost of collection.
Traditionally, China's recycling industry relies on thousands of street peddlers or garbage collectors who rummage through trash bins. Most of them are migrant workers from rural areas who have come to the city to look for industrial jobs and higher income. This type of sorting reduces the utilization rate of renewable resources, but the industry has gradually embarked on the entrepreneurial path in recent years.
The introduction of environmental protection companies makes the process much easier. In the past, individual collectors were scattered in so many places, making it difficult to manage. Now we only need to manage companies, so it takes less time and energy and has much higher efficiency.
More than 2.6 million Shanghai residents had participated in recycling by the end of last year. That is a good beginning, so the next step is for the government to figure out how to work with environmental protection companies like Green Home and Duola.
Professor Jia, recycling has become a part of daily lives, basically, in the Western world. But in China, this is relatively new. So what are some of the major challenges facing China's recycling industry?
Well, I think there are several challenges. The first one is actually low concentration. So currently, about 80% of recycling is either done by individuals or by small companies. You know, the large companies only recycle about 10 to 20%, and they're basically scattered everywhere, right? So you don't really have this industry concentration. And the second challenge is actually low R&D. So there's not enough money devoted to research and develop in terms of recycling technologies. And the third challenge is actually lack of standard. So nowadays, you know, there's not enough training for workers, not enough instruction to tell them how they should recycle, right? But the problem is, if you don't recycle properly, it can lead to second-time contamination. Right? So this is actually another challenge. The fourth challenge is selective recycling, right? So again, you know, with the individual recyclers, they can be very picky in terms of what they recycle and what they don't.
You know, a lot of people say the recycling business is not really something that can be completely put on the private sector. Sometimes public governmental agencies would have to step out and try to help along the process. So what kind of role should the government play in the recycling industry?
Right. Well, I fully agree with your comments, Tracy. I think you're absolutely right. I think recycling business is one of those sectors where government can play a leading role, or at least a very important role in it. And there are several things I think the government can do here. One is to actually promote the awareness of recycling among citizens, you know, better educate our citizens the value of recycling. And second is to try to provide some financial subsidies to these companies that recycle. You know, currently I think only the large companies can try to break even or make a profit because they enjoy certain scale advantages. But for most small and medium enterprises in the recycling business, it's just really difficult for them to break even. Right? right? So if you look at like electronics, look at car manufacturers, for a lot of smaller players, the Chinese government are actually putting in some financial subsidies for them. So I think this is actually very important. So another way for the government to engage in the recycling sector is to come up with more favorable policies. Actually, back in July 4th, which is not too long ago, the State Council actually come up with a new policy that hinges upon the Internet Plus strategy. So now it's trying to encourage the internet companies or internet-based companies to come into this recycling sector and use the internet to try to come up with more innovative ways to recycle.
Especially given how environmental issues are very sensitive to Chinese citizens, this is some very positive change we're seeing.
That's right.
But let's look forward here, Professor Jia. How can recycling businesses like Green Home expand in the future?
Well, I think one way for them to expand is geographic expansion, so try to tap into more communities. And second is to better connect their online presence with their offline presence. Right. And they can use their online presence as a marketing mechanism, and they can organize activities, try to accumulate more users. And I think another way for the company to expand, but this is sort of a long-term strategy, is to try to come up with their own brand that produce a product based on the items they recycled. So this actually has already been done in Japan. So like companies like Loft, right, recycle, and then they have their own brand that sells items that are made actually solely out of the items they recycle. So I think this having the brand really helps establishing the company's image.
That's a really good point. Folks, China's recycling industry should follow in the footsteps of these pioneering green recyclers by embracing technology, because that will help address China's environmental challenges while helping the industry itself to turn more trash into treasure. And thank you so much for your time and insights today, Professor Jia.
Thanks for having me, Tracy.
Folks, if you have an interesting business case to tell, please make sure you email us at newmoney@cctv.com. Thank you so much for watching us today. Until next time, we'll be bye for now.